Today's episode is sponsored by our good friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, located in Melbourne, Florida. Check out their Facebook online auctions on great savings on back issues, action figures, and comics. Shipping nationwide. And our good friends at Docking Bay 94, located in Boca Raton, Florida. Having trouble with your local LCS? Well, Docking Bay offers shipping nationwide at comicsandgames.com. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Codename New 202. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You. So, for the first time since the early 2000s, Hasbro has issued O-ring action figures. That's right, we're going to take a little look at the recent HasbroPulse Snake Eyes Storm Shadows offering. And it's a mixed bag for me, and I'll go into that a little bit more. But I know I usually have our good friends HCC788 and Timmer from Half the Battle do these action figure reviews because that's what they mainly focusing on. Or me, I'm mostly in the modern comics aspect. But I thought I'd give it a swirl and put my thoughts into this. Not just about it, but the overall dynamics that are behind it. That's what's intriguing to me. But the bottom line is, like, this has been a big wave of nostalgia and just big fanfare going into this. I mean, right now, currently, they're out of stock at HasbroPulse, but who knows if they'll be reopened again to take in more orders, and that in itself is a whole other spiel. But before I dive into it, being a GI Joe fan, it like at the end early 2000s and up until recently, it felt like you're the only people still using MySpace. That's right, there was not many Facebook groups and so on. I mean, it was just a small collection of individuals that kept the torch alive. I know HCC, Carson from 3D Joe's, Form BX257, GI Joeberg, Joe Motion, and McDowell, Timmer from Half the Battle are some of the personalities that have continued putting out content during these quote-unquote dark times. Now, recently, we've seen an influx of people rejuvenated into the brand, into the franchise, which is wonderful. But at the same time, it makes you wonder. For me, my angle is, is G.I. Joe's survival beyond this generation? And with the news of IDW getting the license taken away, and I've been speculating, thanks to a lot of my inside sources, that we're also looking at the possible end of the Larry Hama era in G.I. Joe. And that to me is the biggest travesty. While so many of these fan bases are concentrating on going on, picking up classified figures and this, the real issue, the real fandom is passing on G.I. Joe to a new generation with concepts that are still valued today, with diversity, coming together, working together, defeating a greater evil out there. Those things can be applied now and in the future. And that's why I believe that G.I. Joe has a future if the fan base, this older generation, puts the pressure on Hasbro to move forward with the brand, not just satisfying us Gen Xers. I mean, this could very well be the last ever offering of O-ring figures, because I don't see younger kids interested in this with modern articulation and 6-inch figures. 3 3/4 inch is a dying breed. It's like the white rhino, so to speak. So for them to do this, and they're not doing it like a full out release. They use HasbroPulse. The Skystriker project was backed, but we gotta look beyond that a little bit. It's not so much the toys, ladies and gentlemen, that is worth holding on to and supporting. It's the values that G.I. Joe instills into young people, that they can be a G.I. Joe. I'm living proof of that, and a lot of other people. I met so many people that were inspired by G.I. Joe to become police officers, to be in the military, to be a firefighter. That is worth us as a fandom to kind of impede onto this manufacturer, this corporate that we want to see going forward. So far, He-Man is the only 80s franchise that's doing some, and Transformers. But, you know, the difference between Transformers and G.I. Joe, you could be a G.I. Joe. Any little kid, whether you're black, brown, yellow, or green, could say, hey, I could be like that one day. And that is worth fighting for. So without further ado, let's look into these. And I'm going to bring down my 82 figures and 84 Storm Shadow just to give a look. All right, so here we go. So since this channel's main focus is mostly modern G.I. Joe comics, I thought, and you know how a Gen X deals in this modern comic world, I thought I'd bring out the version 1 and version 2 of these iconic characters respectively, as well as 2 of the issues, besides also issue number 27, that really begin the whole lore of Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, or as they're more referred to each other as Sword Brothers. Now, we saw in the G.I. Joe origin movies the dynamics over there and how it's somewhat different from what Larry Hama had created in the Marvel run. But regardless, however you feel about that movie, the fact is these are 2, besides Cobra Commander, 2 of the top 3 iconic figures. I mean, for a while, Snake Eyes' name appeared on the end of the Marvel run as Snake Eyes had the main title where G.I. Joe was underneath it. And again, for the recaps of the Marvel run, I highly recommend watching HCC 788, as well as Form BX 257 and Timmer from Half the Battle. They do a wonderful job recapping the iconic Marvel run, where primarily our focus here on this channel is the IDW run. So this is the 1982 offering, the straight arm Snake Eyes, and you could see, but you know, there's no bicep joint, you know, and I could see this one suffered from the same thing as a lot of the 82 figures had in a broken thumb. But this is all original. I did change out the O-ring a while back. I think this guy is due for another one. And whenever you do that, it's like, you know, you just clench your butt because you're going to shit your pants. But anyway, I love this figure and the whole lore behind it as a cost-saving measure, all of that stuff. And the fact is, anybody could be Snake Eyes. That's what was the beauty of this character. You, regardless if you're Asian, black, brown, you could be Snake Eyes. And that's the #1 appeal of this character. And I think that's what sold it for me. It's just that, you know, I've said in other episodes that Barbecue is my top figure. But, you know, of course, everybody's going to put Snake Eyes there. And also Storm Shadow. In the era that, you know, made ninjas cool and crazy in the 80s and early 90s, I mean, Storm Shadow was one of the OG characters. He was one of the first ninjas that captivated the minds of young people, you know, practicing kung fu on their little brother by beating the crap out of them. I mean, this, again, what's the beauty of these 2 figures when you compare it to the modern figures is that it's very simple. It's just simple, no bells, no whistles. I mean, how many people lost the Storm Shadow accessories, especially those nunchucks? To be honest with you, this is a black major. The original one is long gone, but you know, that's where I know whatever side of the fence you are on, but this is where I'm a big advocate for repo parts, because, you know, I'm just so glad to reunite this figure with his proper accessories. And of course, the #1 version of Snake Eyes that just really took the character into stratosphere is the version 2. This is what a lot of people remember. This is what a lot of people are drawn to. Regardless if you're like an early 80s fan or the 90s fan, this was the figure along with Timber as well. I mean, everybody loves that pet and human relationship. So on that level, Snake Eyes is relatable as well. And of course, the version 2 of Stormy, now he's on the G.I. Joe side. And we all know Larry Hama was very, very big on not having the stereotypical Asian bad guy and wanted to really drive home that, Storm Shadow was a victim and he was seeking out truth and justice. And all along, he was a good guy. And of course, for the first time on any action figure, we see the famous Arashikage tattoo. Again, see ACC 788 and Form BX 257 for complete figure breakdowns. That's more their wheelhouse, not so much me. I mean, I don't mind doing it, but at the same time, I'm more focusing on comics for you guys. And speaking of comics, again, the iconic issue number 21, which I featured in several of my grading comics special for Gen Xers and G.I. Joe fans. We've been going through the entire G.I. Joe run from the Marvel and IDW, pulling out issues in my collection. I'm not trying to be vain or anything, but I probably have the largest graded G.I. Joe collection thus far in the community. So, of course, issue number 21 and 26 and 27 are directly related to these iconic figures. Their dynamics, of course, issue 144 and other issues down the road kind of expand on that lore, but those 3 issues right there, I think 126 is behind me hanging on the wall, but just for space, I just wanted to use these 2 to drive home the point. These are both newsstand variants. I've talked about that in episodes, why these newsstand variants are more attractive than the direct editions. And just because you get low grades, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. I mean, the fact that these were out on the 7-Eleven spinning racks and so on stuff. So who gives a monkey's ass about that number? The point is that they look beautiful. And together, along with the action figures, that is what a lot of people, when they come visit the Retro Room, are drawn towards. And they really like the fact that they could connect with their youth and show off this stuff to their children. I guess I get a big kick out of that. Okay, so the announcement of these O-rings after, let's be honest, the failure of the G.I. Joe Retro line, which was basically mostly reissues of earlier version of this character. I think this one was version 41, if I remember correctly. I did a video on these 2, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but these are already previously released action figures. I think with the some sculpts, like I know the Baroness was a reissue. Let me see, I'm looking at them here. I know the Cobra Officer and I believe Stalker were actually new molds, but regardless of the fact, these failed. They did not do well. Still at a price point that probably a lot of children and their parents are going to skip at $12. And then the Snake Eyes Origin figures were released, the smaller ones, which were more like $10. But the fact of the matter is Hasbro totally cheaped out on these. And I noted that. Look at these Cardbacks, super thin, flimsy. And I compared it to the 25th anniversary line, where it was essentially double the width of these Cardbacks. But, also the distribution problem. You got to remember, this was at the height of the pandemic. So for I think the first wave was these 2 plus the Baroness. So there was always boxes of 6 figures. So for one Baroness, there would be probably 3 Snake Eyes and then 2 Storm Shadow. So that's one box directly coming from Hasbro to the store. So the Baroness was like, the same thing happened with Scarlet. Scarlet was the only figure to be offered in those shipment boxes from Hasbro themselves to Walmart, so to speak. But again, some people like them. Then the other thing is that getting their hands on them, all of them was a pain in the butt. So what happened was Hasbro announced that they were bringing, it was kind of really quick. They announced that these O-ring figures, and then open up the pre-sale, and then like typically, boom, they're all sold out. And then I think a little bit down the road, just before the Skystriker HasLab project, they reopened it again And again, that was sold out. So I didn't know when the hell these were going to arrive. And, you know, and it's a catch-22. Like I've been saying in previous episodes, G.I. Joe fandom isn't about going to HasbroPulse and buying these. I mean, I am reviewing it, and I know I sound like a hypocrite, and I feel bad for it, but the most important thing is the values and what G.I. Joe is about. That is G.I. Joe fandom. That is the heart and soul of this iconic franchise, and that is worth passing down to another generation, and what us as a fandom should be protesting to Hasbro. And I've said it when I did my comic recap, Larry Hama knows that his days are numbered. He's coming towards the end. And he's been releasing wonderful storylines that actually appeal to today's world, to today's youth, blending in a little bit of the old and into the new, with new characters. Like one girl is a hacker, you know, and she's working with Mainframe. And then another guy is the first Muslim G.I. Joe character, and he is working with Outback, you know, getting in and infiltrating Cobra Island. Modern G.I. Joe storyline, if you've been following, is absolutely wonderful. It's a lot of fun. And I enjoy my regulars that join me on each episode as we go through this journey together. What's the other thing? Yeah, Sherlock, a character with a disability. So again, that message to even people that are disabled, that they too matter, that they too can contribute to make a better world for us all. That is G.I. Joe in a nutshell. Not being the first in line to getting these. I want you guys to think about that. All right, so with that aside, the packages arrive, and it comes in, like, of course, this brown thing. And then when you take it out, I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. You get a wonderful presentation. So this in itself, and then in the back of it, I'll have pictures in the corner. But again, I think they didn't cheap out so much as they usually do, but this is a wonderful presentation. And, you know, again, my big issue is Hasbro had lost a lot of the molds when they sent them over to Fun School India. And there is I don't know if you remember the 80s show Street Hawk. There's a really cool version of Snake Eyes on Street Hawk. So basically, what's his name? Jesse Mock was the writer. So that was supposed to be, Snake Eyes was supposed to be Jesse Mock. There's also been other variations where, you know, the mold was used. So I was kind of shocked that they were able, either they found the mold or they made a brand new one, which shouldn't be so hard nowadays with 3D printing technology. They just had to scan any figure, and they would be able to have all the schematics to make a new mold, so to speak. And they could technically do that with any other Joes. But I think we saw with the Skystriker funded project that they're going to be using that, because to mass produce these is actually expensive. I mean, there's a metal, there's rubber, there's plastic, where these figures are cheap to make. There's just all plastic. So this costs a little bit more just by raw materials if you think about it. So I don't see them reopening this for, you know, extended period and relaunching the line. So, you know, tap the brakes a little bit. So again, the HasbroPulse, the Skystriker had so many. I think we unlocked Scarlet and I think the Cobra Commander and 2 Cobra figures. So you're going to get, besides Ace, so you're going to get like 5 or 6 O-ring figures to accompany in that HasbroPulse HasLab project. All right, so after we use my trusty Craftsman blade, we're going to open this. And you could see the inside. I try to do this during the day. So we got the 2 Cardbacks, and these are the version. Would be version 1.5, and this would be version 1 completely, because by the time that Stormy was released, they already had the swivel arm release. So let's take a closer look. Again, just reminiscent. You could tell that this time around, the Cardbacks, you know, this is this thin. Let me show you, compare. So here we have the 25th, or the retro line of Snake Eyes, as well as this HasbroPulse one. And you can see, like, right off the bat, like, you know, the thickness of this one is significant. It's like 3 of these equals 1 of this Cardback. It's really stupid when you look at it. And the back, pretty much a carbon copy of the retro line. So that's a big bummer. What's interesting is they released cells of course, possible future releases. And I think these 3 right off the bat are going to be allocated to the Skystriker project. So that's how you're going to get these 3. Duke, if I remember correctly, I don't know if I don't know if they've announced his offering yet. So down in the comments, let me know. I may be off with that, but of course this is part of this package here. And again, nothing new, essentially the same thing. Nothing significantly different as far as that aspect of it. But again, and also the front, they just basically... I do have my original file card for this, but I don't have the front. I think HTC 78 might have it. So, but I'll pull one up just to compare. But it's slightly different from the 82, 83 as far as the background is. This one has been a little bit more digitized versus the original one looked like an actual painting. So that's the difference in that aspect. But I am not going to open these. So I wish I could, but but for this, I mean, I do want to feel I wish I got another one. Maybe if they reopen it, I may pick up another one, but I don't, that's slim. But again, you look at the mold of the original one, maybe get some light in here. So again, our good friend McDowell also did this a couple days earlier, so I highly recommend going and watching his after this. I'll support my fellow Hooded Cobra Commander Family Tree Cobra Convergence participants. So please check out McDowell's channel after you watch this. But you could see that, really it's a carbon copy of this action figure. You could see the H, like in the belt buckle, is even same. The Uzi, the color of the Uzi, I could tell is really close to being the same. And of course, his satchel. Really impressed. I mean, I think this is a wonderful presentation that Hasbro did. They definitely upped their game for this. And let's look at the Stormy one. And this is, that with the black major accessories, I was at liberty to use some touch-up paint to, put silver on this. I always wanted to do that. I always did that as a kid. I don't know if any of you guys did that, like even my Sword of Omens or any other character that had a sword. I would get my mom's like nail polish or model paint and paint the blade. So I'm just curious down below if you did that as well. That'd be kind of cool. But again, this figure, carbon copy, nothing out of the ordinary. And I think they did a wonderful job with this. Same thing with the Cardback. Like I said, showed you with the Snake Eyes. It's essentially the same thing. But you see the cells offer the same thing. So it's basically a carbon copy of the ill-fated retro line. I don't think they're bringing this back, guys. I think this is a done deal. Only what was it, 3 or 4 waves of this retro line before they pulled the plug. And they had distribution problems too. There's a lot of, I mean, I can't even find freaking cat food. I went to the grocery store and like I know if in your part of down in Florida, like cat food is nowhere to be found. But again, this is a wonderful offering. I like, all the accessories are there. That smooth finish too. That's pretty nice. But again, this is like, it's a wonderful pack. I hope, you know, people that want this are able to get it. That's the other thing that I'm not too happy about, in as far as like, you know, the distribution problem that Hasbro is really noted for. I don't understand. Mattel has no problem, so why the hell is Hasbro having such a problem with this? But this is a wonderful offering. The price point is a little bit steep. You know, I think at $50, I think that's ludicrous. But at the same time, you know, they got you by the balls. So either you fork up or, you know, you pass on by. And there's nothing wrong with, you could be just as much of a G.I. Joe fan without having to buy a single thing. That's the beauty of it. You could enjoy watching content, reading. You don't have to spend a single dime to be a G.I. Joe fan. This is not having the bigger dick contest, you know. Oh, I got this, I got that. You know, who gives a rat's ass? You know, as long as you benefit from it and you enjoy it for whatever, you know. And the most thing is, like, the community, in my opinion. Like, and passing along that message of G.I. Joe. That's the most important thing in this fandom. You know, Star Wars has gone amok. And it's not fun being a Star Wars fan, even though we're the generation that created Star Wars, essentially, and gave it its platform. A lot of us migrated to G.I. Joe because they haven't fucked with it too much, as bad as Star Wars has become. Anyway, I thought this would be a quick, nice unboxing video just to showcase, you know, this wonderful offering. So with that said, I'm going to end this little review that I have of these. And again, it's not like, oh, if you're able to get all the toys, wherever. I mean, the most important thing in this fandom is passing down the G.I. Joe message to a new generation, that G.I. Joe is relevant, it's cool, it matters, not collecting every action figures. But with that said, I'm gonna give this okay. You know, I enjoy being reconnected with these. I enjoyed the experience. It's fun looking at them. It's so wonderful to add to your collection. But at the same time, the price point is absurdly high. The fact that, you know, the quantities, people not being able to get it, that sucks. Basically, Hasbro operating like communist country sucks. And the fact that you're not incorporating Larry Hama's ideas and making new figures or new characters, or characters that are relevant to today's world and today's kids, is a big miss overall in Hasbro, in my eyes. But I'm glad you're watching. Stay tuned. We're going to have I was in the middle of actually working on issue number 288's recap, so stay tuned for that before I leave for Philadelphia. This is Shabu RU signing off.